Real quick before we start the video, a spoiler warning for anybody who wants to play Astral Chain. This video will have story spoilers, so if you want to experience the story for yourself, please click off and come back after you have finished the game. Thank you and enjoy the video. Platinum Games is one of the best action game developers. They are responsible for many of the genre's best games, including Bayonetta, Nier Automata, and Metal Gear Rising. So naturally, when Platinum announced a new IP early 2019, every action game fan was pumped to no end. The original trailer looked amazing. There were stylized characters, cool looking enemies, and crazy combos. It looked like a unique game that would be fun to play. Come August 2019, on release date, everyone who played the game was praising it to no end. Critics and players alike loved it. Now, close to 3 years after the launch of the game, let's revisit this gem and take a closer look at what this game represents and how it holds up after so much time. The game starts with a very interesting cutscene, introducing us to Yosef, the director of Neuron. He's shown to be experimenting with a dangerous monster, later we learn are called chimeras, and he captures this chimera with a chain-looking thing. He then explains that they are ready for new members, and the new members that are chosen are two twins. Here you get to select your gender and customize your character, and the one you don't choose is automatically named Akira Howard. Just for a future note, going forward I will be referring to Akira as a she, mainly because I chose the male protagonist, but keep in mind Akira is also the name of the male twin if you choose the female protagonist. One thing I never understood about this game is the fact that this game features a silent protagonist. The reason this doesn't make any sense to me is because of how they had voice actors for both roles. If you choose the female twin, the male twin was voiced, and if you choose the male twin, the female twin was voiced. It doesn't really make any sense that they couldn't at least give the main character a few read lines, especially when I think that the silent protagonist is harder to relate to. But this isn't really a big issue as I'm used to silent protagonists in other games. It's just something that confuses me every time I look back onto it. After you choose your character and finalize the looks, you are then put on a motorcycle auto-scroller type thing. I don't know how to describe this section except that it's cool, but the protagonist looks so sick. You're given the option to move the bike side to side, shoot your gun for enemies that pop up, and slide with your bike horizontally. But I don't really remember much of the gameplay. All I remember is that this cinematic part is sick and is a great way to introduce the main character. After this section, the protagonist has to help an injured person to a stretcher, and then we are introduced to the combat. At this point of the game, we don't have much freedom at all. We just have our high-tech baton that can turn into an energy-based gun, which we can attack using ZR, and that's it. But even then, the combat is still fun. You can press B to dodge, and if you dodge at the right moment, you can do a counter while you're attacking. The basic combat is really fun at the moment, but it gets even better when you attain your first Legion. After fighting for a while, you get introduced to an invisible enemy, which is a chimera. And not being able to hit it, we are introduced to Neuron members Max, who is our foster dad, Jin, and Alicia. These characters are introduced in the best possible way, and all their legions really match who they are. After they defeat the Chimera, Max gives us a legion after being ordered to by Yosef. Max, being our father, didn't really want us to be caught up in this battle with Chimeras because it's extremely dangerous, but Yosef wouldn't budge on it. After getting our legion, we get our first true battle with legions in our hand. Legions make the combat super fun. The legions themselves attack without you having to do anything, but the chain that connects you with the legion can also be used. The two primary uses of it is to throw a rushing enemy back and to chain an enemy by going around them with a chain. There is one other use where the legion can pull you towards it, but that's mainly used in the parkour sections, which we will talk about later. After defeating some weaker chimeras, we are introduced to our first big chimera. After causing enough damage, the chimera starts causing havoc. After playing a little bit of Subway Surfers, we are then awakened to a temporary state of being 100% sync with our legion, and eventually come back unharmed. And with that, File 1 ends. After the banger opening that we are shown, we are brought to Neuron HQ and are told that we are now able to use the legions freely, and are sent to train with Jin. This is the first real tutorial section this game offers. The tutorials themselves are useful and explain how to do everything you could possibly do with legions. For new time players, this pretty much teaches everything you need to know about the game's combat and makes all the flashy moves you see from cutscenes possible. There isn't really much else to mention, but the fact that tutorials are not required is a lifesaver for second playthroughs, since most games still require playing through tutorials even to this day. This is also a good time to start talking about cases, as from here on out, not all of them will be required. Red cases are cases where you are required to engage in combat, while blue cases are pretty much fetch quests and non-combat related cases. This is pretty standard and don't really add any enjoyment to the game. The only case I really remember is the ice cream one, which is so intricate for no reason, only for the ice cream to be spilled by some guy running down the stairs at the end of it. After finishing the tutorials, you are sent on your first case, which is hunting down a chimera. This is also the first investigation section of the game. I understand why these sections are here, but frankly I find them really boring. The line of thought is pretty much fed to you with a fill-in-the-blank portion at the end of them, and the actual act of gathering information can be dumbed down to talking to people, using your legion to capture the chimera's prints and descriptions, and sometimes using your iris, which pretty much has a recording of everything that literally happened. These sections I find pretty useless in the grand scheme of things, and I think you can just use your iris and move on without really sacrificing the action. After finishing the investigation, you hunt down the chimera with big hands with Akira, going through a mini-boss, and as you reach the end of the section, you find some humans who need help. After defeating all the corrupted humans and chimeras, Akira decides to stay with the others and help them, and make you continue all by yourself. As you near the end of the corridor, the chimera with big hands pulls you into the astral plane, starting the first big boss of the game. After almost completely destroying him, Max and friends come and save the day. You then go and rescue humans who are trapped in this plane, and as you are about to leave, the legions you guys have break free. This starts a fight with the Sword Legion, and you are tasked to recapture. After dealing enough damage, you capture your first legion. Surprise, no one else was able to recapture theirs. Right after you capture your legion, you have to fend off the rest of the legions for a while, before Max decides he is done. He sacrifices his life to help you, and others escape from this hellhole. After you get back, you pretty much faint from exhaustion. You wake up finding yourself in the infirmary of Neuron HQ. After waking up, Joseph explains how you're the only person who has a legion and how the legion production has stopped since the facility was attacked. After an annoying hour of Lappy telling you where everything is, you are finally free to continue the story. She also introduces you to Brenda and Olive. They are the doctor and the hero through the headset, respectively. I'm not really sure what Olive does, but she is there for moral support. Now is a good time to talk about the baton, as I like to call it. The baton is the weapon the protagonist uses to fight. After this chapter, it has 3 modes from an upgrade: the heavy sword, the police baton, and the gun. The heavy sword is supposed to be a hard-hitting but slow attacking weapon. The police baton is a fast but lightweight weapon, and the gun is a ranged weapon that does the least damage. I only ever found myself using the heavy sword in most situations, because the heavy sword is not even that slow. You're able to cancel out of attacks rather quickly, and the extra damage you get is insane. The gun is mainly useful for flying enemies and pretty much nothing else. I found absolutely no reason to use the police baton other than changing up the gameplay a bit. You're also able to start upgrading legions this chapter, and the upgrades are mostly passive. Every legion has an upgrade tree you can go by. You use gene codes you get from finishing an enemy, which you can do by pressing a command prompt every time you kill one. You use these gene codes and G, which are the game's currency, to unlock certain points that are locked in the tree. You also use gene codes and G to upgrade your weapon in the game. The Legion's power level can be told by the number given in the menu, which goes up to 10, and 1 being the lowest. That brings me to the combat. The combat in this game is amazing. There's no other way to put it. There's so much detail they put into each and every action that you can do. While you can easily beat this game without going into much depth with the game's combat is honestly really deep. The Legion is like a second controllable party member, and every time I play this game, I am reminded of the World Ends With You combat, except better. The Legion can do skills you assign it by holding ZR and either pressing X or Y. The depth of this combat is something I hope they keep in future installations of the game, as it's the best part of the game by far, and it pushed me to play even the post game, purely because I wanted to fight more. After talking to Nod Lappy, you're sent on your next mission. You start with another investigation scene to find out what happened to a missing person, which leads you to the Astral Plane. The Astral Plane is pretty much used as a dungeon from here on out, with puzzles to complete and not so precise platforming to do. I like that the Astral Plane isn't just a world where there are a shit ton of chimeras to destroy, even if it would be fucking amazing to see the protagonist wrench a horde of chimeras. This makes it feel more than just an action game. Every Legion can use a field skill, which will help you go through the Astral Plane. The Sword Legion can slice in a line, the Arrow Legion can shoot an arrow at far targets, the Arm Legion can cover you and help you hover, the Beast Legion lets you ride it like a horse, and the Axe Legion can destroy large blocks. These field skills are pretty explanatory, and I don't even know if they're called field skills, but that's what I will call it from here on out. You then find a yellow drone, and after getting him all the parts he needs to be fixed, he starts flying again. After he helps you find the victim, you have to fight another mini-boss. The fight isn't that bad, honestly, and after helping the victim back into the real world, where you find out that everything just went to shit. The whole world is flooded with chimeras. After fighting through a bunch of chimeras with Akira, you then find one of the missing legions, the Arrow Legion, who also happens to be Akira's old legion. You are thrusted back into the Astral World, rushing your way through it to then find the Arrow Legion, who Akira is currently fighting. Once you reach it, you have another Legion battle. These battles are honestly not too bad, and this holds true for every Legion fight in the future. You end up capturing your second Legion and can change your Legion by pressing X. You use the Arrow Legion's field skill to get out of the Astral Plane. After a cutscene with an unexplained group, Yosef tells you to capture Jenna Anderson, the person who was responsible for destroying all the lab and an old co-worker for Yosef. After finding out where to go, you take a bike and go to Harmony Square, pretty much just a recreation of New York City. I don't really have much to say about this area other than it's a pretty cool location and it's fun to look at, but there isn't much to do aside from side cases. You do a long investigation looking for Jenna, and after gathering all the info you needed, you spot Jenna and follow her into a gate that leads into the Astral Plane. You go through the Astral Plane, and as you're about to catch Jenna, she escapes, leaving you to fight some chimeras. After defeating them, you return to the Ark and meet up with the rest of the team. The next location is Ark Mall. Ark Mall is a cool location, especially after all the corruption they do. The area is fun to explore and is one of my favorite locations in the entire game. As you try to follow your team, the stairs are cut off, making you take the long way around, and as you finally meet up with the rest of the team, the Arm Legion shows up. Since Jin and Alicia are out of commission, we fight the Arm Legion and capture it. Alicia tells us that Akira went ahead, and we continue through the mall, eventually to find Akira fighting Jenna. This is our first fight with Jenna, and it's nothing serious because after doing a bit of damage, she throws Akira off the edge and spawns a giant chimera for us to fight. After defeating the chimera, we find Akira in critical condition and rush to help them. We start off the next file being consoled until Brenda lets us know we can visit Akira at her Health Institute. The Health Institute is another one of those locations that is cool to look at, but not much to do other than the cases that are there. We are given a guest pass to go and see Akira being taken care of. Afterwards, we are called and told that there is an explosion that happened in Harmony Square's subway station, and we rush to go see what is happening. We talk to Alicia, get a gas mask, and go and try and save some people in the subway. Honestly, this area is kind of annoying to go through. I got lost so many times trying to navigate this place. This happened in my first playthrough as well as my second, and I don't really know how to fix this. After saving everyone, we find out Alicia is in some trouble with wolf chimeras. After helping her defeat them, Alicia talks to us about how much we remind her of Max and how much Max has helped her. As we are going up, there is another explosion, and we have to fight chimeras until the Beast Legion shows up and drags you into the Astral Chain. After capturing the Beast Legion, we are introduced to its field skill, which is basically a horseback ride, letting you go faster than normal. I just want to take this time to talk about Max. He is someone that we are introduced to early on and help us control legions. We don't really learn much about them since by the end of File 2 they become irrelevant, and Max is killed early on, but we do know that Max was our father figure, and it shows with how hesitant everyone was earlier on with leaving him behind, but we get way more information at this point about Max. After capturing the Arm Legion, we learn more about his relationship with Jin. Jin explains that you remind him of Max as you are able to do anything that you put your mind to, like Max did. One of the things that becomes obvious is that Max was an idol for Jin, and Jin wanted to become more like Max, even stating that he wishes that he learned more from him. Someone who was strong enough to protect what they cared for. That is what Max was and what Jin wanted to be. After capturing the Beast Legion, Alicia also confirms this with her own flashback. Max wanted to save the world not only for humanity's survival, but so the player and Akira could live in a peaceful world without chimeras. His sole reason for continuing was for us, and the more I learn about Max, the more I wish he didn't die so early on. Also, side note, Alicia admits to having a crush on Max. After navigating through the astral plane, you find the drone again from before and need to fix him up. After fixing him up, you continue through the astral plane with him and find Jenna at the end. She tries to explain how she isn't the bad guy and gives us a USB card with information. Jenna leaves some chimeras to help her escape, and after defeating the chimeras, the drone tells us his name is Hal Clark and is part of the Neuron Tech Division. This is easily the part of the story where everything goes to hell. Hal asks you to meet up with him at the top of HQ, and he explains that the data card has information that Zone 9 is being quarantined and that he wants to go investigate the area. He asks us to come with him in the most low-key way possible, but the thing is that Zone 9 is illegal to trespass into. We agree to go with him and taking a motorcycle to Harmony Square and then going to Underground Access to eventually go to Zone 9. You confirm with Hal one more time that you're good to go and then do a stealth mission to cross the border to Zone 9. And then do a stealth mission to actually get into the area. The stealth mechanics are pretty standard and aren't really memorable, to be honest, so there's not really much to explain there. This area is secluded, and it really shows. Zone 9 doesn't have nearly as many resources as Harmony Square and pretty much every other area we have seen. Technology isn't as advanced and technology comparable to what the real world has at this moment. The inhumanity of this situation really calls into question what the higher-ups in this world are doing, namely Yosef. After doing some investigation, you learn about a group called the Hermits and break into their hideout. Their leader Kyle calls you out after they finish fighting a chimera, and after beating the shit out of them, Kyle explains that the substance they have is called Blue Evolve and is basically a steroid. You learn of his supplier Douglas, and you follow Douglas's scent into the astral plane and continue going through the plane until you find Douglas with the case of Blue Evolve. After coming back into the real world, all of Kyle's men are mutated and Douglas runs away from us for his own safety. After defeating Kyle's chimerified men, you chase after Douglas only to find him dead with a blaster wound. You then have a massive boss fight, which at the end you are run out of energy and are saved with Akira with new drip. Honestly, this new outfit looks pretty sick, so I'm not opposed to it, but it is kind of weird considering that you and her are both part of the same division. You wake up in jail because, you broke the law, and Akira pretty much says to leave everything to her, and you're also told that Hal is banished from the arc. Yosef realizes he needs you when there is a Chimera outbreak, and you're temporarily released from your jail cell. This takes place in the same place your first mission took place in, and after defeating all the Chimera in the area, you're pretty much left off the hook since you saved everyone's lives. After being restored to active duty, you're tasked with the cleanup mission. The mission itself doesn't have much action, but in the later half of the chapter, you are told that the Axe Legion has come up. You and Akira both rush into the Astral Chain to try and recapture one of the things that represented Max. After going through the Astral Plane, you capture the Axe Legion and now have every single Legion you could possibly have in the game. One thing of note is the fact that since this is the last Legion we unlock, it's hard to really use it in combat since it's so much worse than the other upgraded Legions we had, and for most of my playthrough I used the Arm Legion and the Sword Legion. With so many questions in our head, we finally get our showdown with Jenna. We chase Jenna the whole chapter. We chase her through the Astral Plane and finally have our first fight with her. Her first form isn't too hard, but after defeating her, she drinks a vial of Blue Evolve, grows wings, gets new armor, and flies away. After another motorcycle section, we catch up with Jenna, who's with Yosef and Akira. We have a fight with her in this form, and she then adopts a new form after her defeat. This bitch just won't fucking die. But after destroying her in this final form, we lose control and become this being that I don't know how to describe other than just a Chimera fusion. After trying to control her bloodlust, Jenna just lets us kill her, and then she questions our humanity because of our bloodlust. Can we really even call ourselves human at this point? We just killed another human being, and we're going on a rampage. But as soon as that's done, Yosef takes command and commands everyone to shoot us down, and we are out for the count and introduced to the new task force that Yosef created, codenamed Raven. Except we wake up totally fine with Hal taking care of us. Oh, and Olive. We are then free to roam around Hal's hideout, and after helping him with a few things, we find out Brenda was also labeled a fugitive. And after trying to rescue her from the sewers where she is cornered, you find her with Akira. You manage to convince Akira you are good guys, and then the Ravens show up and release their mask. Yosef, being the completely sane person he is, decides to clone Akira and make a team full of them. Akira doesn't take this info too well and transforms into a monster similar to the thing we turned to before. And after trying to fight her in this state, you get a sick ass transformation scene.
Trapped in the madness, beaten hollow. Is there any way to save me? Is there any way to break free from this mess? Strapped to the sadness and the sorrow, on the verge of giving in, with an urge of self-destruction to end it all. This could be the end of time. This could be the end of me. Not gonna pretend and let it fall to ashes. No, this could be the end of life.
You now have full control over your transformation. Pressing both control sticks down will make you transform if your transformation meter is full. This form is super powerful and is basically an arcane fighting style with absolutely no technique whatsoever. Also in this form you won't be able to use any of your legions. I barely use this form because of how late we got it, but goddamn does it look cool. After defeating her, we finish off this chapter and go into the final file. I just want to take this moment to talk a bit about Yosef. This dumbass is so fucking weird. His plan throughout the story made no clear sense. He chose you and Akira because of their compatibility with legions, but other than that, nothing he does makes any sense. What is the point of anything he is doing if humanity is finished? Why does he even want more power? He's the head of the biggest security force in the world. There's not even an explanation for why he does what he does. So, the only conclusion is that Yosef's just mentally insane. After getting a chopper out of thin air, you and Akira make your way to the lab. And after going through a bunch of Akira clones, you end up fighting with Akira herself because she has identity issues. I mean, who wouldn't? She doesn't even know whether she herself is a clone or not. So after defeating her, you fight every other legion again, and after defeating all the legions, you now realize Yosef's a madman. He orders the ravens to kill themselves and fuse to make a massive fucking core he takes for himself. Also a part of this core is the real Akira, so you never really know who the real one is. This creates Noah. This part is so fucking annoying, especially since it's a giant parkour section which is janky as fuck. This is the only negative I have with the game. The parkour is really bad because of jank. The movement is not precise. You can't jump in this game, so instead you have to have the Legion pull you towards it. The only reason this is not precise at all. The Legion will pull you towards it, but won't land in an accurate spot where the Legion was in, which makes precise platforming sections, like the entire final boss thing, so annoying. After getting through it, you find yourself inside Noah and have to fight the core that is inside him. After a fairly simple fight and defeating the core, you fight the actual true final boss, and humanity's destroyer, Prime Noah. This boss is a beast and is frankly really difficult. He has two forms, becoming true Prime Noah after taking a section of his health. I will admit I died a few times in this boss fight, and after killing it, Akira has a very little control and asks you to kill her. Being the kind-hearted human you are, the Arrow Legion has to come out from its own will and does it themselves to end off the story. You take one of the surviving Akira clones and give it Akira's memories, and that ends the story of Astral Chain. I want to take some time to talk about the protagonist, since this is one of the few silent protagonists that actually have a full character arc. He goes from an obedient officer trying to do what he can to save the world to someone trying to figure out why things are the way they are, and eventually turning on the organization that hired him to begin with. Neuron is the organization that gave him the legions, and using the power that he had, he decided to look for the truth rather than just blindly follow the being that gave him his power. This causes most of Yosef's crazy schemes to fail, since he wanted us and Akira to help him create Noah to begin with. Most silent protagonists never really have a change in character, so it was refreshing to see one that actually did. Silent protagonists normally just have their friendship thing that just influence all the characters around them rather than changing themselves. This is not all there is to the game. There's also a post-game, but I didn't really think it was necessary. It was just a bunch of Chimera takedown missions in places we've already been, and it's not a terrible inclusion, but it's not like a must-play or anything. The only reason I really played it is because I wanted to fight more with the combat, since the combat is one of the best parts about this game. This story is one that kept me in it. I would have continued playing this game for the combat alone, but the mystery was also intriguing, and the more and more I learned about the world, the more I realized how fucked up Yosef was. I mean, he looked suspicious from the get-go, but I would have never predicted the scope of his corruption. Astral Chain is an experience that continues to impress me even after my second and third playthrough. Increased difficulty and Legion customization always kept the gameplay feeling fresh. Astral Chain definitely deserves all the praise it got, and it will always be an underrated masterpiece in my eyes.
This is it, my friend. We have come to end a new beginning of a brand new world.
This is it, my friend. I'll carry you within to find the meaning and the will to move on.
Another day,
Another tragedy,
another way,
a simple remedy,
uncovering
unfolding destiny.
We gotta keep our promises.
Thank you guys for watching till the end. If you want to play Astral Chain, it is on sale for about 2 weeks since the release of this video on Nintendo Switch eShop. If you like my content, and please hit the like button and subscribe, as it will help me a lot. And if you want to support my channel even further, consider checking out my Patreon in the description. Patrons will be able to vote on topics I discuss in the future, as well as watch videos like this early. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys later.